Friday night, finals football, live on Fox League. The Storm and the Roosters. Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, and the real Prince Harry.
Harry Grant, is there anyone better?
Up against James Tedesco, Luke Keary, and this cool kid in a hurry.
Sam Walker does it again!
The Storm and the Roosters, sudden death finals football, 7 o'clock, Friday night, live, Ladbrake 3 in play, only on Fox League.
This is set to be an absolute blockbuster. The Melbourne Storm home to the Sydney Roosters. The Melbourne Storm coming off a big loss, and the Roosters are in fine form at the moment. And fired up is Nick Politis. The Spartan Roosters going to war.
7 wins in a row, Braith, for the Chooks, and a lot of us had put the red pen through them in terms of featuring in September. But Uncle Nick is banging the drum. He's got the East to win chant going, and he's also pumping up the fact that, you know, many years ago the Spartan Warriors were one of the strongest armies. They had to overcome all sorts of adversity throughout history, but they continued to find a way. So it's part of the Tricolour's next man up mentality at the moment, which they're going to need because they've been decimated in the back line to face Melbourne Friday night.
How do we see the Roosters performing, considering they've got all those injuries? We spoke a little bit about it last night. What's your take on this, Mick?
I thought their win last week was one of the great finals wins, with everything that went against them, whether or not that takes its toll on that Roosters side, because that performance against Cronulla was one of the best finals wins I've seen. So that was outstanding. But you couple that with the injuries that they've got, I think it's going to be a struggle for them against a Melbourne side who you just can't see their key players playing as bad as they did last week.
I think, though, with that attitude, obviously that's kind of the mantra this week. So they're going to war. And they went to war against Cronulla.
Yeah.
So they didn't give up. They kept playing, they kept fighting, they kept moving, they kept working for each other. And if Melbourne are a little rattled by last week and they don't find that form early doors at Amy Park, the Roosters could be in it.
Yeah, and Brisbane went through the front door in Melbourne, and that doesn't normally happen. So it's whether Lindsay Collins and his troops can go through the front of Melbourne. That's how they nullified Melbourne. Yeah. But the Roosters were fantastic. When Cronulla, you go there, they wanted to play at home. Everything was leaning towards Cronulla. They're a side that fight over a bone and don't have to be too much meat on it. And Roosters got down in the trenches.
Just on the way that the Broncos went through the front door, Gordon, what's going on with the Storm pack at the moment? Because whether it's Big Nelson or Christian Welsh, they just don't seem to have that. They've always been so stoic, so much punch through the middle.
Well, the Bromwich brothers losing those guys from the middle, that's a fair bit of experience there. They had Kafusi on the edge, so it's just a numbers thing. And I just think the forwards out of there, everybody gets rested, and you know that when Melbourne take their big boys off, that they lose a bit of momentum as well. I don't think Melbourne have the troops that they used to have in the middle of the road.
I think you're right. I think the Broncos exposed Melbourne's pack in this game. Melbourne have been good without being great all year and have been consistent in their forwards from what I've seen throughout the competition in 2023. And they come up against the big guns and the informed pack, so they've got to bounce back and deliver this week. Now, Brendan Smith created a stir after labelling his former team's effort against the Broncos as putrid, and now his old Storm teammates have responded.
Did he? Oh, that's all right. He can do it every once. At the end of the day, if we get the win on him on Friday night, then I'll give it to him. But if he gets the win over me, I'm sure he'll give it to me. So it is what it is. He pretty much talks from whatever comes to his top of his head, a bit like myself. But we'll see who has a laugh on Friday.
Jesus, always pretty honest, and that's basically what it was. It was a very poor performance.
He's right, isn't he? Yeah, we were pretty putrid. I think Munn. What did you say, Munn? House. Oh, can I say that?
Our spine just really weren't connected enough, and it's probably the first time this year we've looked disconnected. To do that in a bigger stage, we obviously had to sit back and have a bit of a chat about it, and we just need to get them involved a bit more. You see the likes of Nico Hines and Nathan Cleary, they've got the ball in their hands a lot of the time, and myself and Hughesy are probably doing half of that at the moment, so just trying to figure out where we can get better in the game with the ball in our hands a lot more.
We needed some subtitles there for Cameron at the start. I couldn't quite understand what he was saying, but he got there eventually once he just slowed it down a little bit. But, I mean, this is good because, you know, they're good mates, right? Let's be honest. So Brendan Smith and Cameron are great mates. So there's a bit of banter there, but Melbourne can use that banter now as motivation. You don't really want to give, whether you're mates or not,
Well, Brisbane used it last week. It was the hoodoo, this is what's going to happen. Maybe Melbourne believed that they were going to walk through the Broncos. So this has been a shot fired. They've all got their back up. They're all being polite.
Is it different though? Because it's Brandon. If it was a Victor Radler who came out and said it,
No.
I think it makes it worse, right?
Yeah, it's
I think
an
it makes
ex-teammate.
the cheese is on the chopping block this week, no question. He is the number one player who is on the chopping block for the Storm this week. Craig Bellamy will be aware of where his little weaknesses lie defensively when the Roosters have got the ball, and he'll be looking to get his players to exploit them.
yeah, they'll go at him. There's no doubt about that. But I think the reaction there from those players, they know what Brandon's like.
But
So
they
I
didn't
don't-
know the context when they were asked then. See, if they'd watched the context of Brendan saying it, they probably may have had a laugh. But they're just standing there listening to a reporter say, he said your performance was putrid. And you could tell there was a reaction there, and the steely eyes in all three of the spine, they weren't laughing. They tried to palm it off a little bit.
I thought they took it okay.
As if you're not
It's a sudden death semi-final, Mick.
I think
It's a sudden death semi-final.
But they know what he's like, guys. If it was
Doesn't matter. Once you cross the white
if it
line.
was someone else, I think they could use that as motivation more than someone like Brandon.
But I know how much they hurt after that game,
Yeah.
and you see Melbourne how competitive they are in this competition for over a decade. Yeah, they're not taking it lightly. There's no jokes at this time of the year. But I agree, they're best mates, right? So it is Brandon Smith, but that doesn't mean they're not going to use it as motivation.
I just don't know if it works when it's Brandon.
We'll find out.
I think Melbourne will win, right? But I just don't know if pinning it on Brandon is as useful as pinning it on. If James Tedesco came out and labelled him putrid, then I think you could get
He
behind
wouldn't
that.
do that.
He is an
wouldn't do that.
He is an ex-player who announced that he was going to another team to win a premiership while he was still at their side.
That's worse.
100%.
That is worse.
Do you think they've
That's
forgotten
getting
about that?
No, but that's worse.
Yeah, but you combine
But
it
then
all
he's
together,
backed it
Mick.
up and just said, mate, they were putrid.
Well, they were.
They were. You're right. But
were.
they admitted that too.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is a great opportunity for. It's a great opportunity for
You
Brendan
love it,
Smith
though.
because we've been critical of Brendan at his
He's
role
been
at the
out of form
Roosters.
most of the year,
He
bro.
was out of form for the majority of the year, but he's coming good at the right time. He's simplified his game. His running has been so effective out of dummy half. He's getting those quick play the balls for his halves to weave their magic. So he's found the best form at the right time. This is his chance to come up against the hooker, Harry Grant, who is the hottest hooker in the competition. It forced him out of the club. So he goes head-to-head with him this week. He takes him on. He eyeballs him. He wants to beat him this
There's
week.
no doubt he wanted to stay in Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
Because they're both half getting offers, right? So Harry Grant was getting offered, and I don't know whether he was getting shopped around, and so was Brandon. Melbourne picked Harry.
If Brandon can help the Sydney Roosters orchestrate an upset against their great adversary, the Storm, there's so much history between these two clubs over the course of the last 20 years. If he can help them orchestrate an upset at Amy Park down on Troops, then he actually erases the 3 months of terrible form, all the other negative headlines, all of that. If the Roosters make a prelim and he's instrumental, well, he actually delivers on the reason why the Roosters went after
I
him.
think he shuts everyone up.
Correct.
All of us even here. Oh, to be fair, if he goes out there and they win the game and he's man of the match, well, he's proven us all wrong. Because none of us expected this, especially midway during the year. Harry Grant's got a big job to do this weekend. He's been invincible for a long time now, and on the weekend was probably one of his worst games.
It was the worst performance
career.
I've seen Harry Grant play. He was well. His timing out of dummy half. That's one of his strongest suits, and it just wasn't there.
It must have been, mate, something must happen to him in the warm-up. In the first set of 6, he gets up and starts pushing Carrigan. That's way out of character. Like, mate, you watch him in Origin, he doesn't get up pushing when someone, gets under his skin. So I don't think Harry plays like that again.
No.
He had the eyes rolling around at the beginning of the game, like you used to when you were running out to play State of Origin. Why was that? Like, what happened in the warm-up that set Harry Grant off? Because from the minute that the whistle went, that was the temperament that he displayed was the antithesis of everything that we've become accustomed to about what a professional Harry Grant is.
He just looked a little frustrated, and he looked like he was just trying too hard, which is something you just don't see with Harry. But again, you just don't see it happening 2 weeks in a row.